I mean, it's quite a bold top for me, this, isn't it? What was I thinking? Minnie Mouse, I'm coming for you. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing really well. Only I could dedicate a series on my channel to organisation and having things planned and getting deadlines done on time and have the latest instalment late by a good 5 days. So sorry about that. We're now well into the first week of March and here I am with my March bullet journal spread. Hope you weren't waiting for it because sorry about that. There's no excuse other than the fact that I have just been super busy for the past couple of weeks. I think I mentioned in my last bullet journal video that January was a struggle and it's always a pretty quiet month when you're a freelancer. You never really know if you're gonna get any work. I mean, you're literally living off beans and rice for like 31 days. But all of a sudden, things really kicked off in February. I've had a lot of work to do and juggling the balance of getting my writing deadlines done and also trying to keep on top of my YouTube things. I've had a couple of spawns going on. It's just been a lot. But that is where this little guy comes in. My bullet journal has been saving me once again. I really enjoyed my February layout, but I think my March one might be my favourite of the year so far, actually. It turned out surprisingly cute. I say surprising because it's very green. I mean, there's a lot of green and I didn't really intend for that to happen. So spoiler alert, my theme for this upcoming month is cactuses and also kind of branches off into succulents every now and again. Turns out the entire community of bullet journal creators across the internet also thought the same thing. Apparently cactuses are a really common theme for March. There's probably a joke here to make about pricks, but I'm not gonna make it. So yeah, even though I originally thought this was gonna be a really unique and quirky little theme for the month, turns out that everybody else did too. So that's just the story of my life really when it comes to YouTube videos. But on the plus side of that, that means there was loads of inspiration for me on Pinterest. There was loads of ideas for me to kind of like steal a little bit, put my own twist on them, turn them around to suit me and create a spread that I'm actually really happy with. I really like it. It's quite different to the bullet journal spreads that I've shown you before. I've messed around a little bit and mixed up the layouts that I tend to go for, given them a slightly different twist, and so far, I mean, we're 6 days in, but so far it's really working for me. So if you enjoy this video while you're watching, then please do give it a little thumbs up and chuck a comment down below and let me know what you think. If you are new around here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It even matches my top like a true professional. If this is your kind of thing, if you tend to nerd out over stationery, then you will find monthly bullet journal updates on my channel. So let's just march on into this. I hate myself, don't worry. And check out my March setup, spread, layout, vibe. I just have some explaining to do before this starts. As you can see along here, we had a bit of an incident this month. I foolishly put this journal in a bag with my boyfriend's water bottle, who hadn't put the lid on properly. Yeah, great stuff. So all in all, the moral of this story really is never get a boyfriend. They are officially useless. But anyway, that was just in case you notice things are looking a bit wrinkled down here, like this nice, smooth, straight professional line. That would be why. It's very difficult to draw straight lines horizontally now because my journal is effectively ruined. But I won't hold that against him. Anyway, moving on from slight disasters, this is the title page for my March bullet journal layout this month. As you can see, I have gone for a very green, very natural kind of vibe. It's kind of become a bit of a theme now that I put a frame on my first page, and I think it's quite cute. I feel like it's like the signifier or something new, kind of like a new chapter, so I think I'll probably keep that up. For something a little bit different with my title this time, I went for an unoutlined capital letter month to start with, and then I wrote over the top in my usual calligraphy font, just with a standard black pen. And I really like the way it kind of like echoes itself. I think that looks really cool. Also added more of an illustration this month. Previously I've tended to stick to one colour for my theme, but this month I've kind of mixed things up a little bit. Used a little bit of this tan colour, which I thought popped quite nicely with the green, and a little bit of bright blue just to give these little terrariums that I drew a bit of extra dimension. So as you can see from the very first page, this is where things have started to look totally different. If I just flick back to January, January to show you how I was previously doing it. I used to just do line by line for each day and have this little mini calendar in the corner. But I found that for the personal page, probably because I don't have much of a social life, I wasn't really using it very much in this format and it wasn't particularly useful to me. But that's the magic of bullet journals, in that every single month you can mix it up and see what works best for you and your lifestyle, I guess. I've just gone for pretty much your standard calendar style layout this time, just with the little illustration here, which I actually think turned out quite cute. It's very colourful for me. I normally don't do this much colour, but I feel like it works quite well, and it's kind of spring-like. I like the pastel shades. I've got a little space here just for notes, just because that corner kind of looked a little bit blank when I'd filled in all this stuff over here. I'm going to put like evening plans, weekend plans. I've got a couple of little trips coming up, so they're going to go on this page, like holidays and stuff. And hopefully this will prove a little bit more useful for me to flick back and forth between as a proper main calendar for March. I decided to make this as big as I could to kind of fill the space, and instead moved over to this side for my work stuff. So for this, I've stuck to my usual style of 2 columns, one for work events that are coming up and one for work deadlines that are approaching. As always, I just go a line for each day. I do the date numbers down the side, followed by the day of the week. Normally I like a little bit more decoration than this. Maybe I should have put something along the top here. But then I also feel like the simple kind of vibe works quite well for this, seeing as it's work stuff. And then this page over here is actually one of my favourites this month. This is going to be my YouTube video ideas kind of brainstorming space. And I've illustrated this just with some little hanging terrariums. We've got some little falling plants here, a big spiky thing. I don't know, maybe it's aloe vera. Another new thing that I've added this month is a space for any particular emails which I need to remember to reply to, because I do tend to be quite forgetful when it comes to my inbox. I've kept it quite small for now because I wasn't sure whether it was going to be something I would actually use or whether I just really liked the idea of how productive it was. I think there's, what, 7 spaces for me to fill in here? But then I also feel like this is a graphic that I can just recreate through the month as I go along if I decide that it works for me. Okie doke, next up we have my mood tracker, and wow, this is a big one. I love the style of mood tracker that I've been using throughout 2018. I'll try and flick back and show you them. You might remember back in January that I went for this like mass of stars to colour in. I did 3 different shades for depending on how my mood was going. February was then hearts, because it was kind of like a Valentine's theme, and I do think that worked quite well, but it looked a little bit plain. I wasn't quite as much of a fan of this one as the stars, but the fact that it's just kind of like a colour in as you go thing with a minimal amount of different felt tip shades works really well for me. It's something that I actually remember to do, which is kind of a miracle. So I wanted to create something similar this month, and the only thing that I could really think to do was just draw 31 cactuses. This is definitely the most extra page of the month, and it took me a surprisingly long time to draw all these. But now that it's done and dusted, I think it actually looks really cute, if not slightly insane. So the way that I'm doing it this month, as you can see down by the key here, is that I'm just going from lightest green to darkest green, depending on how my mood is going. And just so that the page didn't look too insanely green, I coloured in just a couple of the pots as well with this brown colour, a slightly lighter yellow, and then a little pop of pink as well, which I think looks pretty. I feel like maybe I should have done something more simple for it, but hey, it reflects my crazy all over the place kind of mind, so I guess it works for me. To the right of that, I've just kept my post and my expenses page. I feel like I need to thicken up those letters slightly. They don't look quite thick enough to me, so I'll go in and do that after I finish this video, so just pretend that that's already been done. These work really well for me. I fill them in as I go. It helps me be more organised with my taxes and stuff at the end of the month, so that's helpful. There's not too much going on here, but I kind of like that because this page is so crazy. I was going to colour in these little hanging pots up here, but I felt like there was so much colour over here that maybe it should be kept minimal. I've put in these little dividers, but I feel like maybe there needs to be something along here because this space looks kind of random. But anyway, can you tell that I just make this up as I go along? And then that's kind of all the monthly stuff really, so we are on to weekly spreads, and wow, this is pretty different to what I normally go for. I saw this layout somewhere on Pinterest and just thought it was so cute that even if it wasn't the most practical for me, I just had to recreate it because I really love it. And as a little hack for this, I actually cut out a piece of cardboard in the shape and just traced around it so that they all looked vaguely similar by the end, even though I haven't done a very good job of that. They're all a bit wonky. But then I felt like it looked a bit plain after I'd drawn all this kind of square shapes in together, so I then went in and added a little bit of extra detail just with some washi tape that I picked up from an online store to kind of make it look like the Polaroids were stuck in the book. I just think it's a nice little dainty bit of detail that adds a little bit of extra dimension to the page. Next up, just to be even more confusing, amazing. It's kind of my standard layout. I feel like it's a safe choice because I know it works really well for me, and it's a good way for me to kind of like organize my to-do lists and my thoughts every day. But just to make it fit in a bit better with my March spread, I've given each day its own little cactus. I think they look really cute actually. I'm quite pleased with them. And then each pot for the cactus has the actual date of the month on it as well, just so that I can keep track of everything. And the only other thing to really point out on this page is this little doodle in the bottom. I drew the square and then spent ages trying to think of like a non-cringy quote, something about growing or blossoming that kind of fitted in with the theme. Keep growing was the best that I could do. I feel like it sounds a bit dodgy. But let's just ignore that. Here's another thing that is totally different for my bullet journal layouting. I've gone for something very boxy. I'm not sure how I feel about this one. There's some parts of it which I do really like. I'm really glad, and I kind of wish I'd done more of this. I'm really glad that I didn't colour in these cactuses. I feel like it looks a lot more sophisticated when they're not all coloured in like various shades of Crayola green. These are the felt tips that I colour in. I always get asked this and I need to start mentioning it, but these ones here that just look like this, these are the Crayola super tips. You can buy a huge pack of them and they're not very expensive. I just think this, even though it's quite similar to this, I just think the minimal black and white style looks so much more kind of like cool and sophisticated, rather than this, which is a little bit like, I love felt tips and colouring in. I've sectioned off a space for actual events that are happening in the day, which I tend to just lump in with my normal to-do stuff. But I figured it might be quite handy to have its own little column here. So these spaces underneath the day of the week are going to be like actual events in the day. Like if I'm going for meetings, coffee, if I have shifts anywhere, that kind of thing. And then the biggest space is going to be for my normal checklist, to-do list kind of thing. I guess there's not a lot else to say about this one really, other than it's taught me that maybe I should draw my layouts first, see how I like them as like the minimal effect, and then maybe go back in afterwards and add in colour. So definitely a lesson learned there. And last but not least, on the weekly spreads, I've gone back to the colourful thing. Even after saying all that, I couldn't resist colouring in these ones. But this time I've alternated left and right for the days of the week, which I think looks quite cute. And then underneath each one, I've just added its own little illustration to brighten things up a bit. I just did my calligraphy lettering with my standard fine line pen. My favourite one at the moment is actually this one over here. This is the Zebra Sensations from Zebra Pen, and it's just their technical drawing pen. I think this is, yeah, this is number 3. That's that. That is my March weekly spreads. So moving on to bonus pages for the month now. By bonus pages, I just kind of mean things that don't necessarily fit in with the month. I tend to think of them as I go, to be honest, when I realise what I need to start tracking. So rather than stressing out about the fact I haven't already done them at the start, oh, you can see the water damage across here, so bad, that's so annoying. As I was saying, I like to pepper my extra pages like throughout each month. So for January, I did a bookshelf. Then back in February, I added a wish list of like all the big purchases that I wanted to make. March, I've added a page that I feel like will be either a love or hate thing. So this month, I have added a period tracker. Woohoo! So I had a bit of a search on Pinterest for how best to do this, and in the end I really liked this idea of a day-by-day grid. As you can tell, it was quite tedious to do because it's literally 365 squares. But the columns are just January to December, one for each month, and then right down here we have the dates of the month. Well, this is awkward, but in typical me style, I've also just realised I've actually done this wrong because February does not have 31 days, so these two squares should actually be across 27 and 28. But I'll fix that later. Never mind. I told you this bullet journal might look perfect from a distance, but it is absolutely covered in Tipp-Ex. And then over here in the key, you might be able to see that dark red is heavy, bright red is regular, and a pale pink is light, just so that I can keep a track of when my period arrives, how long it lasts for. I've also added in a little exclamation point for PMS, and that way I can just draw it over the colour if I'm having any particularly moody days. And then I've also got a little X here, which is going to stand for if I have particularly bad cramps. And the only two real little doodles that I added were this like dramatic arrow to point to what is inevitably going to be a detailed description of my period, just in case anyone finds this bullet journal and wants to be mentally scarred forever. So I've just done this like pinned up post-it note, and it just says, oh bloody hell. I was going to write it in like really big font, but I felt like the more understated the better with this one. And on that note, I think I will flip back to the beginning so that we can talk less about my period. So yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with this, and I'm proud of myself for like trying new things, not just sticking to the same layout that I always do. And I'm excited to see how I get on with this. There's a few features that are really going to be quite useful to me. The mood tracker is still absolutely crazy, but other than that, I'm really proud of it. I really like this one, and I'm excited to hear what you guys think, so make sure you let me know in the comments. Do you like this more minimal style? Would you go more colourful like this? And last but not least, would you have a period tracker? I hope you guys have a great month this March. I hope it's super lucky for you, and ta-da! So there we go, that is everything I have to show you for this month in my bullet journal. I always love chatting to you guys about all this kind of stuff, so make sure you drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this month's spread. Are you going to be using any of the ideas? Have you gone for a cactus theme this month like everybody else on the planet? Don't forget that if you use any of my ideas as a bit of inspo, if you're using mine as kind of like a template for yours, or if you just want to show me your bullet journal, don't forget to tag me on Instagram so that I can have a little look, I can stalk you all, I can leave you a comment, that kind of thing. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, both at Lucy Jane Wood, particularly Instagram if you're obsessed with bullet journals, because that's where I tend to put all my like sneaky peeks of the upcoming month. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time with another video. Why did I do it like that? Bye!